Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Lies, exploitation, and the American dream turned nightmare. This is Big Sugar, a deep dive into the inner workings of the sugar industry. I'm Celeste Headley, and in a new podcast, I'm investigating a true crime story like no other about the men who risked their lives to cut sugarcane. In Big Sugar from iHeartMedia, Imagine Audio, and the teams at Weekday Fun and Novel, I'll unravel a decades-long fight to get justice.
If they were right, then these workers were owed tens of millions of dollars in extra wages.
Listen to Big Sugar wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
I just want to give a quick trigger warning for this episode, as there is a bit of a graphic description. It's nothing over the top. I've actually cut it back because I didn't think it was appropriate and necessary. But the part I have left in, I think it needs to be told in the story. In January 2000, 33-year-old single mother Jodie Foster and her 3-year-old daughter Hannah relocated from Montana to Chico, California, hoping for a fresh start. Money was tight, so Jodie was relieved to find an affordable apartment at Walnut Gardens, also called Walnut Grove, on Parmack Road, a tidy complex with flowers, a pool, and a family-friendly neighbourhood. The unit was apartment 14, a 2-bedroom on the second floor. During the tour, Jodie felt an uneasy sensation, as if someone were watching her, and even noticed a strange chemical odour she couldn't place. She brushed it off as moving stress. After all, the apartment seemed clean and cute, and she was determined to make a happy home for Hannah. By the end of the week, Jodie signed the lease and moved in on January the 31st, 2000. Unaware that 24 years earlier, on that very date, a tragedy had occurred that would soon engulf her life in fear. I'm Sarah Powell, and this is Obscurata, because some stories have no ending. Almost immediately, odd occurrences began. Jodie would set Hannah's little pink shoes by the door each night, only to find them inexplicably moved to the middle of Hannah's bed the next morning. Thinking her mischievous toddler was to blame, she scolded Hannah, but the child insisted she hadn't touched them. Then it kept happening every day. Soon, other household objects refused to stay put. Jodie found the salt and pepper shakers lined up at the edge of the dining table in the morning, even though she hadn't left them that way. Doors would inexplicably slam on their own, and the phone's coiled cord would start swinging like a jump rope without anyone touching it. Lights turned on in the middle of the night, and digital clocks all displayed wrong times, often blinking 3:37 when it was nowhere near 3:37. The entire apartment felt dark and heavy, as if not at peace, and Jodie occasionally detected an odd acrid smell she likened to carpet cleaner or chemicals. These small disturbances unsettled Jodie, but she tried to stay rational. "I thought I was going crazy," she later admitted, struggling to find a normal explanation. Even Hannah sensed something unusual. One morning, Jodie heard her daughter cheerfully say, "Hi," to an empty room. Jodie asked whom she was speaking to. Hannah pointed to a spot by her bedroom door and replied, "That girl right there, Mum." Yet no one was visible. Another day, while Jodie brushed Hannah's hair in front of the mirror, the little girl remarked that she saw Mummy's friend standing behind them, even though they were alone. Hannah described her invisible friend as a young woman in a white shirt with brown hair that flicked out at the ends. She was so innocent that she assumed this apparition was just one of her mother's friends. Hannah started referring to the visitor as My Liz, as if it were the girl's name. The toddler said this friendly angel would visit at night and even give her a goodnight kiss on the forehead. Jodie was chilled by her daughter's matter-of-fact tone. Hannah truly believed this ghostly girl was real. Not long after the move, Jodie herself became plagued by vivid nightmares, unlike any she'd had before. The first came on their very first night in Walnut Gardens. In her dream, Jodie found herself observing a young couple, a man and a woman, dressed in dated 1970s clothing. They prowled around as if hunting for someone. Their demeanour was predatory and frightening. Jodie felt almost invisible in the dream, like she was a ghost watching them. She couldn't intervene, only witness. The next night brought another nightmare. Jodie saw the same couple roaming the halls of an apartment building. To her horror, she realised it was her building. In the dream, the man and woman stopped in front of apartment 14, her door, and then suddenly they were inside her home. Jodie watched in helpless panic as the intruders tried to snatch up little Hannah from her bed. Jodie screamed and fought to protect her child, and in that instant, Hannah inexplicably transformed into a different girl. An unfamiliar young woman with long auburn brown hair. Jodie jolted awake with a start, heart pounding. The clock read 3:37 a.m. She was drenched in sweat and so terrified that she suffered what felt like a panic attack. Shaken, Jodie confided in her close friend, Heidi Herrera, about these nightmares. Heidi tried to reassure her, suggesting that perhaps Jodie's subconscious was just working through stress, maybe reflecting Jodie's own worst fears about a stranger harming Hannah. After all, Jodie was a protective single mum in a new town. It wouldn't be surprising to have some anxiety. Heidi agreed to come and visit and help settle the new place. But when Heidi stepped into apartment 14, her blood ran cold. She later described a palpable chill and an oppressive presence hanging in the air, especially in Hannah's room. Heidi's intuition screamed that something was very wrong there. Jodie could see the goosebumps on her friend's arms. Heidi urged Jodie to be careful, but Jodie didn't know what else to do. They had nowhere else to go. Meanwhile, the nightmares only escalated. Night after night, Jodie endured the same saga in her dreams, each time with more detail. In one sequence, she saw the mysterious couple driving a blue car down a road. They pulled up alongside a young woman walking alone. the same girl with auburn hair that Jody had glimpsed before. The woman rolled down the car window and offered the girl a ride, and the girl climbed in, seemingly grateful for a lift. Jody sensed something terrible was about to happen. The dream scene then shifted. The car was pulling into Jody's own apartment complex. It parked right in front of Walnut Gardens. Jody saw the man get out and approach an apartment door, accompanied by the unsuspecting girl. The man knocked and politely asked if he could use the bathroom, as if this were a friendly visit. Jody had an overwhelming feeling of dread. She seemed to know what was coming, yet was powerless to stop it. At that moment, she would snap awake, heart hammering. Again, the clock glowed, 3:37 a.m. The line between dream and reality began blurring. Jody was now afraid to fall asleep at all. Exhaustion set in as she tried to stay awake night after night. Whenever she did drift off, the nightmares resumed. In one harrowing dream, she saw the man in the blue car sneak up behind the auburn-haired girl and press a cloth over her face. The girl struggled briefly, then went limp, chloroformed into unconsciousness. Jody watched horrified as the couple dragged the girl's body into their car and slammed the door. Again, Jody would wake in a sweat just as the terror peaked. She often found herself bolt upright at 3:37 a.m, gasping for breath and not knowing if what she'd seen was real or not. "I thought I was beginning to lose my mind," she later said of this period. During the day, caring for an active toddler on virtually no sleep, Jody felt like a ghost of herself, haunted in every sense of the word. While Jody's nightmares hinted at a specific dark narrative, Hannah's interactions with the invisible visitor grew more curious. The little girl continued to chatter about her friend, my Liz. She would draw crayon pictures of this imaginary friend, always a young woman with brown hair flipped at the ends, often shown wearing a white sweater and jeans. In one drawing, Hannah even depicted the lady hanging by her arms while a bad man and woman hurt her, an unusually disturbing scene for a child's doodles. Jody hadn't yet connected the dots, but Hannah's nickname, My Liz, was eerily close to Marlies, a common nickname for someone named Marie. A coincidence that would only become clear later. At the time, Jody simply found it odd that her 3-year-old was drawing such morbid pictures without any prompt. Whenever Jody asked about the drawings, Hannah would calmly explain that My Liz was sad and that bad people hurt her. It was as though Hannah, in her own innocent way, was relaying messages from this spectral friend. At one point, Jody and Hannah briefly left apartment 14 to stay with a family friend, hoping the nightmares and odd events would stop. While crashing at a friend's place, an elderly long-time resident of Walnut Gardens struck up a conversation with Jody. He lived in the complex and had heard about her troubles. This neighbour cautiously revealed a local legend. Years ago, a young woman who lived in apartment 14 had vanished without a trace. And ever since, tenants in that unit didn't seem to stay for long. Several prior residents had moved out, abruptly, spooked by something in that apartment. The old man told Jody that back in 1976, the woman living in apartment 14 went missing, and rumour had it she fell victim to a notorious couple from Red Bluff, the same couple who later kept a girl imprisoned as a sex slave for years. This revelation sent a chill down Jodie's spine. It sounded exactly like the plot of her nightmares. A missing girl, a wicked couple. Could it be that her dreams were replaying what happened in that apartment decades ago? Jodie's rational mind balked, but too many details were aligning. Armed with this new clue, she decided to investigate further rather than run away. Before confronting the past, however, the present was about to deliver one more explosive paranormal encounter. Despite the disturbances, Jodie initially hesitated to leave Walnut Gardens. The building manager had promised her that as soon as the downstairs unit opened up, she could transfer, which would eliminate her worry about Hannah's safety on the second floor balcony. A few months into the lease, a ground floor apartment became available, and Jodie jumped at the chance to move downstairs. Perhaps a new unit in the same complex would shed the negative energy of apartment 14. Unfortunately, the move did not stop the nightmares or strange events. It intensified them. Jodie's friend Heidi, upon helping her settle into the new first floor unit, remarked that she had an even worse feeling about this apartment than the last. It felt cold and heavy as a tomb. Jodie tried to stay positive, but soon the haunting phenomena resumed with a vengeance. Night after night, Jodie's dream picked up where it left off. She saw the kidnapped girl regain consciousness in the back seat of the blue car, her wrist bound with rope. The poor girl would panic and try to scream, but the man would produce a bizarre metal contraption, a torture helmet, and clamp it over her head. Jodie had never seen such a device, but in a dream, it looked cruelly effective at both terrifying and silencing the victim. The car then arrived at a simple house with a brick basement, which Jodie sensed was the couple's home. In this dungeon-like basement, chains hung from the rafters and various torture devices lined the walls. Jodie could only watch in dread as the man shackled the girl's wrists over her head and suspended her from the ceiling beams. The captive was crying and pleading for mercy. The man seemed to relish her suffering. Jodie witnessed him whip the girl and make lewd sexual advances while she hung defenseless. The woman accomplice watched passively at this stage, neither helping the victim nor stopping her husband's brutality. The nightmare would reach a new crescendo each time. In one dream, Jodie saw the man draw a knife, yank the girl's head back by her hair, and slash her throat. Her eyes met Jodie's, as if the dying girl saw Jodie standing there, and with her last strength, she silently begged Jodie to help. Jodie would awaken screaming from that dream, utterly traumatized. And as always, 3:37 a.m. blared from the bedside clock, while the entire room's lights flickered wildly and the window blinds whipped up and down on their own. This poltergeist-like activity became commonplace. Objects flew off shelves, faucets turned on by themselves, pumps and indistinct voices echoed odd hours. Jodie felt under siege. Finally, she decided she could not endure another night alone with Hannah in the apartment. She asked a family friend, Misty, to stay overnight and help watch Hannah, so Jodie might get a proper night's sleep. Misty agreed, and the two women planned a sleepover in the apartment's living room with little Hannah. Surely, Jodie thought, if someone else was present to witness, nothing crazy would happen. Or if it did, at least she wouldn't face it alone. Misty arrived one evening, and from the moment she stepped inside, even she felt an unnerving sensation of being watched. As they settled in, the quiet was suddenly broken by an odd sound from Hannah's room. "I feel great, I feel great, I feel great," a cheery voice crooned over and over. Misty and Jody recognised it immediately. It was Hannah's favourite Ernie doll from Sesame Street, which would usually say that phrase only when you squeezed it. But now it had somehow turned on by itself and was repeating the line incessantly in a flat, monotone loop. The women exchanged alarmed glances. The toy's switch was set to off, yet it kept talking. Cautiously, they followed the voice down the hall into Hannah's bedroom. What Jody saw made her blood run cold. A heap of toys and objects had been piled in the centre of the bed, as if someone or something gathered everything in a rage. On top of the pile sat the Ernie doll, staring blankly and chirping, "I feel great," again and again. Around Ernie's cloth neck was tied a crude noose fashioned from a jump rope. Jody's shock quickly turned to anger. This felt like a threat against her child. In a mix of panic and fury, Jody grabbed the phone and finally called the police. And that's the end of this first part of a two-part story. We will continue with the second part on Thursday. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. It's just really interesting. And the second part, it kind of gets even more interesting. I'm not going to say better, because that's probably not the right word, but it does get even more interesting. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/The Whispering Woods, where for £2.50 a month you can listen completely ad-free. We're also now on Apple Premium, where for $4.99 you can listen to this podcast and our other podcast, The Whispering Woods, ad-free. If you're enjoying this podcast, please rate and review if you can. It would be really appreciated. I want to say a quick thank you to Roger for fact-checking and editing. And as always, stay curious and sleep with the lights on, just in case.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Lies, exploitation, and the American dream turned nightmare. This is Big Sugar, a deep dive into the inner workings of the sugar industry. I'm Celeste Headley, and in a new podcast, I'm investigating a true crime story like no other about the men who risked their lives to cut sugarcane. In Big Sugar from iHeartMedia, Imagine Audio, and the teams at Weekday Fun and Novel, I'll unravel a decades-long fight to get justice.
If they were right, then these workers were owed tens of millions of dollars in extra wages.
Listen to Big Sugar wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.